Welcome to the channel. Thank you everybody for tuning in. So it's about time I done the full review on the Tactical Frog. As you guys saw in the unboxing, which was quite popular by the way, there's a mixed variety of opinions on this watch. We know they've made a fundamental mistake with the design of the watch. However, how does it seem overall? So in this review, I'm going to break down, of course, the specifications, the price, where I got it from, dimensions, etc. I'll have a closer look at some of the features, really talk you through what is present on the watch and how I found it over the course of a week that I've worn it. Now, I'll also break down what they have done right, what they've got wrong, and what my concerns are. So, wrist check for today, I am wearing the absolutely crazy Sar Bomber quartz watch, massive, but yeah. Back to the Tactical Frog. So I bought this watch from watchdives.com. I received delivery very quickly. It was well under a week. Now these watches are also available on AliExpress stores. I will link both within the description, and you are obviously free to choose whichever you are most comfortable with. Price difference, I don't think there's any price difference except maybe a couple of quid or a couple of dollars. So this comes in at $179, which is around £130. Watch Dives will give you an additional $15 off if you use the code THEWATCHER. I guess the main difference between Watch Dives and AliExpress would be the delivery time. AliExpress uses AliExpress courier services, and especially to the UK, I think Watch Dives has the ability to send this watch out a lot quicker, and of course other things which I mentioned in the unboxing. Color options, you do have a total of 5 different color varieties. I do have another 2 here which we'll look at later on in the review, and the rest are, I'll put the pictures up. You've got a dark blue, you've got a white dial, you've got a coral blue, orange, and of course yellow. And I think all the colors, they've done that just right. They've got them spot on. Let's look at dimensions and specifications. You've got a case diameter of 43 millimeters. You have a total thickness of 12.6 or 12.5 millimeters, and a lug to lug of 44.2, so around 44 millimeters on the lug to lug. You have a lug width of around 20 millimeters, and the weight minus 4 small links is 145 grams. Moving on to specifications, you do have a full 316L stainless steel construction, including the case background, bezel, bracelet, and the watch runs a Seiko Epson NH35 movement with a date complication. Hacking and winding, of course, beats at 21,600 vibrations per hour and is a very reliable and accurate movement. You do have a domed AR-coated sapphire crystal. You do have 200 meters of water resistance and a screw down crown and a screw down case back. So I've had this watch on for a whole week. Let's break it down. Let's look at all the features. Of course, we know the main thing that is wrong with it, and we'll mention that a little bit later on. So let's just focus on what we have. On the dial, you do have a printed Tactical Frog just above the 12 o'clock hour marker. Now above the 6, you've got also printed Tactical Frog divers 200 meters in red and automatic just below that. Nothing on either side of the 6 o'clock hour marker. You do have a line around the date frame at 3 o'clock, and you do also have a line just next to the 9 o'clock marker. You also have a minute track printed around the dial, and you've got thicker markers just on top of the hour markers, and the hour markers are applied. You do have this silver outline, and you do have a strip of lume applied on top of each and every one. On the handset, you've got these matte black style hands with the oversized minute hand and a square style lollipop hand. The hand length I feel is really good, and the oversized minute hand just stretches all the way to the end of the hour markers, and the seconds hand does stretch all the way to the edges. The AR coated double dome sapphire crystal has good fit and finish. It sits very flush, and you do have that really nice distortion at certain angles. Now the AR coating is, I think it's at a good level. It's not too weak and it's not overly strong. As you can clearly see, the dial is visible, but when you turn it, and you do see that very slight blue hue, which is okay because it doesn't get in the way of actually enjoying that really vibrant dial. Let's turn our attention to the bezel, and the one thing that you will notice in hand that it has been machined actually quite well. Obviously we know the fundamental flaw here, that it does say tachymeter along the top where it should be the depth rating, and of course the OG does say FT for feet, and the inner bezel does not actually rotate, which is I think the 2 biggest things and the only things that of course people are shouting about. Now In terms of the actual rotation, I think it rotates really well. There is no backplay on the bezel, and although it is slightly stiff, that does vary from model to model, as I've got the other ones and I'll show you those later. Those are a touch looser, but I think that you do get that when you look at just a range of different bezels. Alignment is really good. As I said, it's quite tight, and there's no movement or sideways play on the actual bezel. It seems very solid. Okay, now, so we've covered the bezel, you know, the rotation, etc. Now let's have a closer look at what we have here. So you do have the bezel markers on the inner and the outer. They are engraved, and you do have paint applied over them. And the quality of that is actually very good. You don't see any patchiness. You don't see anywhere where the paint has been missed. And, you know, I think it's been done reasonably well. And now looking at the dial, the only small element of, you know, QC control that I saw is on some of the markers, the strips are slightly visibly just misaligned. They're not dead straight. So I have a look at the one at the 20. You can see it's just slightly off. It's not perfectly straight. And I think the same goes for with a mini hand, which you can't see. But, you know, you get the gist. So that is slightly off. I don't know if that is across the other dials. We'll have a look when we look at them, and just, you know, feedback in the comments if you've noticed any of these things on your dial. Other than that, you know, logo, I have no issue with. We've seen much worse names on AliExpress, and I think they've done right by putting just the frog logo just below the 12, and then you've got the text just at the bottom, which I honestly, hand on heart, no issue with. Now let's turn our attention to the case. You do have a oval style case, and you can see it has circular brushing present. Now if you turn the watch to the side, along the flanks you'll see highly polished surfaces. Now this is quite a simple case. I don't think it's difficult to machine, as it only has two basically different types of finishing, brushing and polishing on the side. It is very common, so it's not that difficult to get done, I suppose. So turning the watch on the side, you do have a recessed crown, which is nice. It fits straight into the case, and it's a wide enough crown. You do have decent amount of grip. Splines are machined perfectly well, and you've got the Tactical Frog logo. So let's unscrew the crown. Click it out once. Click out once so you can change the date wheel, and twice to change the time. The crown screws in and out perfectly fine. There's no issues there. Let's have a look at the case back. So the case is recessed, it is machined internally, and you do have a screw down case back with the Tactical Frog logo, of course, as you expect, and just basic specifications, just automatic movement, stainless steel, etc. Let's take a look at the bracelet. So we look at the end links, you can see everything is solid. You've got solid links, and you do have a milled clasp, and you do have the Tactical Frog logo along there. That's fine. 3 micro adjust. So this is just a standard milled clasp that we see that you can buy on AliExpress for any one of your watches. Now let's spend a bit of time on the bracelet. Let's look at the end links, and I noticed in the unboxing that the fit and finish was absolutely fine. I don't think you can get much of a better fit than this. So it sits in nicely into the case, very solid, no play, no movement. Female end link, but because you got these smaller center links, it works out fine, because what you'll find is the strap does articulate, but just this center part here, the center links don't move, which they absolutely don't need to. And you do have a beads of rice style bracelet. From 20mm it goes down to 18mm at the clasp. Now QC on the bracelet, to be honest, it was a little stiff on some parts, and I've seen some feedback on my Facebook group and just generally checking other forums that, you know, there is just a touch of stiffness in some of the links, and they do use split bars to hold these links together. However, I've had it on for a week now. That stiffness has more or less completely gone, and it seems absolutely fine. And I think that's probably down to the bracelet and the combination using the split pins, but I've had no issue after initially when I took it out of the pack. Now, one thing I will say about the bracelet is, let's look at the first link after the end link. You'll notice it is somewhat thicker than the rest. Now, I think that gives you sort of an undesired effect when you do have it on your wrist. You kind of see these two chunky links sticking out. Maybe not a major, but it's just worth pointing out. Let's check out the loom. So as you can see with the loom, it isn't the brightest. I can tell you visually as well, it is a touch dull. I expected a lot more from the loom. The hands are okay, and the pip at the top clock is actually okay. It's just the markers on the dial, they're not as bright as you want them. I've not used any UV lamps on this watch, and this is just from the LED light in the room. But let me show you guys a comparison just from a Seiko here. And you can see the Seiko is much brighter. And while I'm talking, you know, they are starting to fade slightly. But it isn't the worst loom that I've seen, but also it isn't the best. Now I'm going to break it down into what they've done right, what they've clearly done wrong, and my concerns. So what they have done right, for me anyway, is the logo placement's absolutely fine. The bezel, actually the look and rotation of the bezel is absolutely a-okay. The case, as mentioned, machined really well done. There's no sharp edges, there's no concerns there. The bracelet, like I said, it is okay as well, apart from the initial slight stiffness in the links. Once you do wear it, it does kind of wear down, and you know, that kind of goes. Now finishing, again, okay. Now what they have done wrong, or they've not done to a good enough level for myself, is of course the bezel. That is fundamentally flawed. Tachymeter is a big no-no. But having speaking to Watch Dives, the guys responsible for commissioning this watch, they didn't want to do any copyright infringement as it is homaging the Doxa sub. Yeah, I get that, but I mean, they could have put something else. I think it's just, and I think what people can't get their head around, the ones that it does bother, because as I said, it doesn't bother me, is the fact that it does say tachymeter, and it shouldn't be anywhere near a dive watch. Now, since then, they have shared some pictures. I think they've shared some stuff on the YouTube channel. I'll see if we can get a picture and put it up on screen. They do have a couple of options they want to explore for the next batch. And that is going to be, looking at the options, there's going to be one where it says feet rather than FT, which I don't think it looks okay, but you know, ultimately, let's see what you guys think. And the second one, so the inner circle will have just the markers, so sort of like a chapter ring, which is obviously not needed because you've got a minute track on the dial, and the outer ring will have the dive markings, so the 60-minute timer. Now, I don't know if they plan to make the inner ring rotate. They've not said anything on that, and they've gone for one of the two designs. I don't think you'll get a version 2 anytime soon. It basically depends on how quick they sell these. Another thing which is not wrong, but is poor, is the loom. I was expecting a lot more loom to come from the hour markers, but there sadly just isn't enough. I think the loom markers are just a bit thin. Now, concerns. When it comes to concerns or QC concerns, I'd say my concern would be just on consistency of the bezel. I've got 3 pieces with me, so I'll go through all of them just so you can see if they are consistent. In fact, we'll do that now just to see how the end links fit, to see how the bezels rotate, and you'll also have a chance to look at the other different colors. So let's start off with the yellow one first. So the loom strips on the hour markers are applied a bit better on this dial. They're not as out of alignment as on the orange dial, so you will have some inconsistency there. Crown screws in and out absolutely fine. End links, good fit and finish, there's no issues there, there's no gapping there, and they seem to sit okay. Let's check the bezel out. And that's fine, it's just a bit easier to turn than the orange one, but as already mentioned, these are some things that will probably wear in. And now let's go to the coral blue. This is one of my, I think, favorite ones. I'm stuck between the orange and the blue, but having said that, I think with all 3 lined up, I think all 3 colors are great. So let's go ahead and check the crown on this. Threading is okay there. End links fit fine. Bezel rotation, yeah, more similar to the yellow one, so it's a bit easier than the one I have on the orange. Lines up pretty great. Looking at some of the markers, and you have the marker at the 4-0, which is slightly out of line. So I think that's one thing that we can see in front of our eyes, that The hour markers, the loom strips might be just slightly bent. As I said, I think in the unboxing for myself anyway, I'm just gassed happy that we do have a Doxa Homage. So of course it's not perfect, it's far from perfect. You do have a major fundamental flaw, we can't get away from that at all. But you know, overall it's a very good attempt. As a watch, I think it's quite a good watch. You've seen worse homages out there, and I think it's definitely a good version 1. Functionally, the watch is okay. I've had this on for, you know, a week, and I've got it on my desk. It's a go-to watch, and that does not bother me at all. The fact that the inner bezel doesn't bother me as well, because I'll just rotate it now and then. But yes, I get it's very difficult for some people to look over that, especially if you're a bigger fan of the Doxa. But I've got some amazing news for everybody. There is a brand that will come out very soon that does have the correct bezel, and both do also rotate at the same time, and the dial is a bit more, let's just say, correct. And I can't say anything more than that, but you know, make sure you subscribe and stay tuned, and you will see very soon a new brand which has corrected all the issues here. So okay, I think that's my full review. I will leave you guys with some wrist shots, and let me know your thoughts in the comment section. As mentioned, the description will contain the links to watchdives.com and also to the AliExpress stores, and you'll also get the discount code. So that's it for this review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next video.